Shivasankar again called us back, or called me back to be specific, and told that there was a baggage that had to be transported immediately because CM had forgotten that.
അപകീർത്തിപ്പെടുത്താനുള്ള വലിയ നുണ പ്രചാരവേലകൾ LDF വീണ്ടും അധികാരത്തിൽ വരാൻ കാരണം
clear-cut monitoring by the court. We have no faith in the central agencies.
Allegations or the moment one questions the veracity and the authority of the chief minister in making certain statements and doing certain things, the immediate reaction is that there is conspiracy. Under what law? We can prove it.
You're watching News Epicenter and I am Maria Shakil. The Kerala gold scam has become a major political flashpoint in the state after the prime accused Swapna Suresh dropped a bomb, naming Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan and his family at the helm of the smuggling racket. Today, the state Congress unit staged protests in Thiruvananthapuram demanding the Chief Minister's resignation. Interestingly, the protests witnessed biryani vessels being brought to the protest site filled with gold-coloured boxes resembling gold bricks or gold biscuits, highlighting Swapna Suresh's charge of how biryani vessels were used to smuggle gold and currency directly to the Chief Minister's residence. A former executive secretary at the UAE consulate, Suresh, claimed she was contacted by the principal secretary of the Chief Minister, Shivasankar, during his visit to Dubai in the UAE back in 2016. Chief Minister Vijayan has called the charges part of a political agenda which has been rejected by the people, highlighting his party's victory in the last elections in the middle of the gold smuggling storm. Former Minister K.T. Jalil, who was also named by Swapna Suresh, filed a complaint against her. Suresh moved the High Court seeking anticipatory bail, claiming she has continued to receive threats from the Chief Minister. But the High Court dismissed her bail petition. The Kerala gold scam dates back to July 2020, when customs officials seized 30 kilograms of gold worth 15 crore at the Thiruvananthapuram airport from diplomatic cargo addressed to the person in the UAE consulate. Politically, the LDF has been able to sail through the political storm given its victory in the recent elections. However, Suresh's charges have restarted the political war, with the opposition demanding Pinarayi Vijayan's resignation for a free and fair investigation. So is this case no more than a political power play with the Chief Minister at the centre, or has Swapna Suresh opened a corruption Pandora's box? Joining me on the show, Tom Vadakkan, BJP spokesperson, K.S. Sabrinath is a Congress leader, Srijit Panikar is opinion writer, Sebastian Paul is a former MP, and we also have Kaleeswaram, who is an advocate. Mr. Paul, from corruption to Chief Minister's aides approaching Swapna Suresh in jail for settlement, given the nature of charge, how long can the Chief Minister dismiss these as mala fide and some kind of conspiracy against him?
No, the Chief Minister is right in saying that there is some conspiracy is working for against him. Now, all the charges leveled by Swapna and others for the last few years, they have been the subject matter of inquiry by central agencies.
Okay.
Not one, but 9 agencies made inquiries in the matter, and they found nothing. Now, Swapna Suresh has come out with a 164 statement that is the root of all this confusion now. But what she says, what is the new revelation? The new thing she said about it is that biryani and the biryani vessel carrying some metallic objects. Anybody, if they are on the other side, it is the UAE consulate. The consulate general is there. She says that biryani was sent from the consulate general's residence to
Mr.
the
Paul,
chief
just
minister's
for the benefit of our
residence.
viewers, please elaborate on the 9 investigations that have been carried on in this case since 2020, since you're talking about them.
Yes, what can the chief minister do now? The enquiries are beyond the power of the state government. All these matters involving alleged smuggling of gold through Trivandrum airport and all these things, or alleged transfer of currency, all these things are the subject matter of enquiry by the central agencies. Central agencies did inquire about it and nothing has come out so far.
Okay. Tom Varakan, so central agencies have done an inquiry, and then why these protests by BJP there on ground?
Maria, you asked a very pointed question, Mr. Sebastian Paul. You asked him to identify the 9 agencies that were in operation. To the best of my knowledge, there's no 9 agencies that were involved in this. Oh, be what it may, he may call it 12 agencies have inquired. But tell me something, when you make the CBI, you remove the privileges issued to them, then you file cases against the ED, you threaten officers inquiring. What kind of inquiry is that? I mean, tell me, what kind of inquiry is this? Is this a federal structure that is operational? Mr. Sebastian Paul suggested that, well, these are things beyond the range of the state government. Yes, it is. Because if the currency was foreign currency, then it's a game changer. If the gold has reached the Cliff House, the Chief Minister's house, and without proper security check, this is all the claims that the lady is making under 164. We have no other evidence. But the point here is, she is straight and still maintaining 164. This is what she said to the agencies. Now, if that is true...
Tom Varakan, the nature of charge is pretty serious. Besides the modus operandi that she has talked about and how it is all reaching the Chief Minister's family and his doorsteps directly, she also says, based on the petition that she has filed in the court, Sapna Suresh claimed that a close aide to the Chief Minister visited her office in Palakkad on 8th June and spoke to her regarding a settlement in this case. I mean, this goes beyond just one incident. Mr. Paul, this is far more serious than we are looking at. It has to be thoroughly investigated. Why is your government, instead of saying that the Chief Minister should present himself before the agency, is saying let him be investigated, rather than taking this route of dismissal?
No, the allegations are serious, I admit. But it should be, my case is that all the allegations are unfounded, supported with no evidence, convincing evidence. See, the lady has given a statement before the court, 164 statement yesterday, and she came out from the court and revealed all these things to the media.
No, but that is the subject of investigation. Whatever she has said, after being incarcerated in jail for good 16 months, if she has come out and made a statement and this has been recorded, then what is, shouldn't that be investigated rather than the manner in which the CPM is reacting? Mr. Sabarinathan, come in on this. We are looking at tale of torture here as well. Swapna Suresh, when she spoke to me, and I'm going to play that clipping right now, she has talked about how she gave detailed testimony to various investigating agencies, and she says that she was exploited and manipulated in the court, as in the jail as well. Let's listen into that, and then I'm going to go back to all the panelists. Swapna, you have raised some serious allegations, in fact leveled some serious allegations against Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, his family as well. You've recorded your statement before the court as well. Could you give us more details?
Well, I won't be able to give you more details on the same because I have restrictions from the Honorable Court though. But I can repeat the same thing that I have already told local media here. That is, all these began the year 2016 when Honorable Chief Minister first left to Dubai or UAE. His secretary then, Shiv Shankar, he had actually contacted me personally asking for the protocol arrangements and the facilitations at the airport. And we had done that for him. After that, immediately after that, after the CM traveled, Shiv Shankar again called us back, or called me back to be specific, and told that there was a baggage that had to be transported immediately because CM had forgotten that. And I spoke to the Consul General then, and he arranged a diplomat, a UAE national, to fly immediately to UAE with this baggage. So one of the officers went and collected it from the secretariat, from the assigned person, and there's a normal procedure that if anything comes from outside, being a consulate, it has to be scanned from the scanning machine of the consulate. So it was scanned, and we identified there was currency inside the baggage with other materials, and but then because the baggage belongs to the Honorable Chief Minister, the CG actually told that the baggage has to be transported immediately, and we send it back to UAE through a diplomat, and it was collected by somebody assigned by Shiv Shankar representing the Honorable Chief Minister.
Okay, Swapna, the question here is, when there was a red flag of this nature, given the nature of currency that was there in that bag, I'm trying to understand what was so unusual about that bag and the money that was found in there.
We do not go into these details at the moment, because I told you, I've already mentioned that I have restrictions from the Honorable Court, but the clarifications to all these queries and inquiries and doubts of all of yours is being actually told very clearly in black and white to the Honorable Court.
So everything has been told to the court, including what she says, that she was tortured and used and perhaps abused, and in those 16 months, communication with her lawyer also denied. Mr. Sabarinath, we are looking at here Swapna Suresh making those confessions. There is this reaction that has come from the left on expected lines, I would say. But the larger question is about the truth. Shouldn't truth come out? Shouldn't we know what really happened?
Definitely. This case has been under public scrutiny over the last couple of years. It's only recently, that in the last 6 months after the elections, that the case has again resurfaced. So when Mr. Shiv Shankar was formerly the additional principal secretary to the chief minister, he was taken back into office roles and is currently serving in the Kerala government as part of the administration. During that time, when he came out with his autobiography, he had made some remarks against the accused Swapna Suresh and Sarit, and that's when Swapna Suresh had hit back at him. That was about 6 months ago. And the last controversy which I'm discussing over the last couple of days, the most important thing to notice here is that Ms. Swapna Suresh has made these disclosures in front of an magistrate.
Yes.
That is as per section 164(5).
That's right.
Which essentially means that if her testimony is wrong, she can be taken to court for that. Now, what interestingly is happening is that the CPM, especially LDF, CPM and the chief minister, he has not given his formal comment on things like this. She made some scathing allegations against his family too. But there's nobody has spoken about things like defamation against the family. Okay. And interestingly, instead of protecting a person, she has continuously told that she fears for her life. There were people who were sent to her house yesterday morning after her second press conference, where her co-accomplice, the prime accused, Mr. Sarit, he was forcefully taken away by the state vigilance, and they were continuously questioning him unlawfully, without any kind of consent from the
Mr.
local
Paul,
police.
what kind of misuse of power is this?
No, it is a different matter and a different case and a different person. We are discussing about the revelations made by this Swapna Suresh and how it affects the chief minister or the government. The other thing is a vigilance case, and the vigilance took that person and for questioning and seizing of telephone. If something is wrong, he can approach the court. But now he is a free man, so he can seek recourse for those charges. But this case is different, and we are discussing the revelations made by Swapna Suresh.
Yeah, if I can connect with these cases are not entirely different. And to add to that, today the state government, based on a complaint lodged by one of the MLAs, a former minister, in fact, they have lodged a case under section 153 and 120B against Swapna Suresh. So everybody who knows the law knows that section 153 essentially is giving provocation with an intent to cause a riot, and 120B is criminal conspiracy. So when Swapna Suresh tells the media, tells the honorable court that she fears for her life, there have been people, even today, she made some allegations that there was a particular middleman who's apparently close to the chief minister, the party, and a certain section of media who's close to the chief minister. They were trying to negotiate with her. She's apparently coming out with more information on that tomorrow morning. So when the person says that her life, she fears for her life, her co-accused, the person who's staying with her, were unlawfully questioned by the vigilance yesterday. Now, what the government does in return is that they're essentially ratted. Instead of saving or giving protection to a person who has given a testimony under the as a witness under the code, they are instead framing a case against
Mr.
her.
Paul, respond to this
against...
and then I bring in others quickly. Yeah. If whatever she has said, if it is part of a larger conspiracy to defame the chief minister and his government, then what is stopping you from filing a defamation suit? That has not been done.
No, even yesterday, I made my stand clear that this is a fit case for a defamation case.
It may have been. You may be saying so, but her statement has been recorded under CRPC 164 for the last few days, and she has been going on all channels to talk about her own experience and has been leveling direct charge against Chief Minister. If the Chief Minister is above board, if there's nothing for him to hide, then why isn't he filing a defamation suit against her?
We don't know what she has said before the magistrate, because the copy of the 164 statement is not yet available for the public. But we know what she said because she was conversing all these things with the media. She has made grave and serious allegations.
Yes, that's
not
right.
only against the
As
chief
Panikar
minister,
come in on this.
but his wife and daughter.
Srijit, Panikar, as someone who is watching these developments, I understand when it was happening just before the elections, the left and the Congress took this stand that there is a conspiracy to malign the image of the chief minister. But this is happening now after the government has been formed, and this is a government for 5 years, a pretty stable government. Then shouldn't this be investigated, properly investigated, for all of us to know the truth, rather than the manner in which the politicians in the state are reacting to?
Right,
no, the government initiated
this is for Panikar, please. Mr. Paul, this is not for you. This is for Panikar. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly, Maria. I mean, I don't think we can expect any sort of natural justice in this case from the part of the state government, for the very simple reason that on one side of the frame, we have the state government who is not extending any cooperation to the inquiry whatsoever. See, they have been blaming the central agencies, like Mr. Paul did, saying that there are n number of central agencies who have been investigating this for the last 2 years. But what has happened to the cases that are purely under the control of the state government? There are multiple cases against Swapna Suresh, against the principal secretary or the former principal secretary of the chief minister. Their involvement not just in the gold scam, but also in the associated case which the CBI has been looking into, which is the Life Mission scandal. And what is the progress that they have made on these things? So we have been witnessing blatant misuse of power over the last 2 days. So forget the 24 months. Over the last 2 days, we have seen blatant misuse of power. See, as Mr. Shabari said, it is common sense that she has raised allegations against powerful people in the government. And given the gravity of these allegations, she should have been given protective cover. She has been shouting for protective cover on the media, but instead, a case of conspiracy is slapped on her because she is the prime accused, and she has leveled allegations against the big people, including the CM, his family, his aides, his former ministers, current sitting MLAs, and now a conspiracy has been slapped on her. A co-accused was taken into vigilance custody, allegedly without issuing a prior notice. So at the mention of this alleged involvement of this MLA, who was a minister in the previous Pinarayi Vijayan 1 cabinet, Mr. K.T. Jalil, the state police filed an FIR against Swapna for trying to cause riots. But how on earth can you incite rioting by saying that Mr. somebody, a sitting MLA, was involved in a criminal activity? So an extension that was given to a judicial commission against the wish of the High Court, whose term had expired last month or 1 complete month ago, to monitor the probe of the central agencies, which is also unheard of before in other states, that has been given a renewal for 6 months. So today Swapna says that she was approached by a middleman with an offer to dilute the case and revoke her travel ban and all that stuff, if she could withdraw the statement, which is a 164 statement against the government. Now, my question is very simple, Maria. On the same lines that you asked me, Why can't the state government, instead of leveling allegations against Swapna, instead of taking reactionary measures against the person who is leveling these these allegations, inquire into all these charges with the same rigor that it showed to slap a case against her?
Absolutely. Should that be done?
For mentioning the people that they want to protect.
Should that be done? If the chief minister is running a corruption-free government, then shouldn't he be open to investigation? He should have nothing to hide. Mr. Paul, Sebastian Paul. Sebastian Paul, this is a question to you. We'll try and fix that line. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes, this is a question to you.
There is no doubt that the charges leveled against the chief minister and his family are grave enough to attract a full-fledged investigation. But the government has already initiated an investigation into the conspiracy aspect of the allegations. And
not
as
really.
said,
What the investigation has been initiated is essentially
Maria,
writing.
Maria,
What writing
Maria,
has she
one
indulged
thing.
in?
Yeah, Maria, what is the statement? What is a specific statement that she gave 2 days before, which would cause or incite a riot? Can Mr. Paul explain that?
Okay, Mr. Paul.
All those things will happen in such a murky situation. The police will charge a person with multiple charges.
Tell me.
All sorts of sections available.
She is saying
in the statute.
that there is a threat to her life, and which is clearly visible given the manner in which your government is functioning there. These conspiracy angles and FIRs being filed against her. Shouldn't your government be providing a security and ensuring that the prime accused is safe for the chief minister to come clean eventually if he is hoping to?
No, it is all irrelevant things at this stage, because what is relevant and what is important is the allegations raised against the chief minister and his family. The other things, the Swapna Suresh was before the magistrate 2 days back. She would have expressed these apprehensions before the magistrate, and she approached for anticipatory bail in another court. She would have said all these things there. But now anybody can say that my life is under threat or danger, all those things, anybody can say. But what is more important is to clear the image of the chief minister and the state administration. And for that matter, the government will do some urgent work.
That's not acceptable. That's not acceptable. It's not about clearing the image of the chief minister. There is a party machinery and propaganda machinery running for that. What the people of this state actually want is a closure to this. There has been a serious set of allegations against the CM, and now with all the set of actions that have been taken by the government of the last 2 days, one thing is very obvious, that the state is on the back foot. It is attacking the prime accused.
So it is attack, counter-attack that is happening. And here is Swapna Suresh, who has leveled direct charge against the chief minister and his family. Mr. Kaliswaram, given the nature of allegations and against the office against these allegations are, do you think a fair and free and fair investigation is even possible at this juncture?
I think there are two aspects for this episode. First one is the legal part of it, and the other one is obviously the political part of it. The legal part, of course, once a statement is given under section 164 of the Criminal Procedure Code, that will have to be necessarily corroborated. And that happens generally at the time of final evidence. And then only it becomes a substantial evidence, substantial piece of evidence. Of course, that part is yet to happen, and there could be some investigation. And if there are materials in support of what Swapna has said today, deposed before the magistrate, or whatever be her evidence which she tendered before the magistrate, if that is supported by materials, that is then a different issue altogether that will have its acceptability. But the political part of it, I am more on that, because the legal part is yet to have its logical culmination at the time of the final stage of evidence. Political part is very, very important, Maria, as you indicated in your questions. In order to have a political defense, I think the present regime in the state should have had its moral capital exposed, moral capital tightened. It is there probably the regime is lagging behind. Right from the inception, the government, or rather the ministers, including the chief minister, I think, was not in a position to detach from the kind of top bureaucrats and all other personalities involved in the episode. Very often, allegations were rightly raised that government was in one way or other not keeping away, not contradicting these persons, or rather, even Mr. Shivashankaran was attempted to be protected by the regime. That is the unfortunate part of that. Is the reason why the government doesn't get a political defense. Even when the legal sanctity or the evidentiary value of the deposition is doubtful, it gets some kind of acceptability among the masses because of this deficit which the government has exposed.
Just help
the government
us
could
understand.
not.
Here is Swapna Suresh, who in her 164 statement has said that there is threat to her life. Who is expected to provide her security? Is it the state government? And what followed immediately after that was Katie Jalil slapping a charge against her and saying that she is inciting violence. I'm trying to understand the two. What protection legally does an accused such as Sapna have in this case?
That's a very significant question, Maria. The straightforward answer to that question is simple, rather. If at all, there may be doubts, there may be some kind of skepticism regarding the manner of protection which the state government would be able to provide to Swapna in the given circumstances. In such an eventuality, she will have to approach the High Court, the nearest constitutional court, under 226 of the Constitution of India, and to seek police protection, or rather that kind of safeguard, which the court will be generally readily granting in the given facts and circumstances of the case. That is the way ahead as far as Swapna is concerned, according to my view.
And you think that as far as the political capital is concerned, given the nature of reaction that the state government has displayed since 2020, since the time this case came to light, the chief minister has much to explain. If he is dismissing those charges, then he should come clean. Malafide intent cannot be a reason strong enough, or an argument at all.
Correct. No, the mere statement, a blunt statement in defense may not be sufficient in circumstances like this. That's why I believe strongly that these are all cases where politically the chief minister or any other minister or former minister for that matter will have to have a clear posture in such situations. They should be able to, they should show the integrity to question them, to detach from them, and to subject these persons, including the top bureaucrats of the state, to appropriate, independent, impartial, fair investigation, criminal investigation.
And has that really happened, Mr. Paul? Independent investigation, you quoted some number in the beginning of the show, and I kept on looking at my file to understand where are these 9 investigations that have happened. None of these have actually happened, sir.
Well, whose fault? All these investigating agencies, customs, ED, all those agencies, they are all the central agencies. The chief minister at the beginning of these incidents have returned to the central government, union government, to come and investigate these matters. So it is their statutory duty.
Mr. Kodakan, why is the chief minister not being interrogated? Because Mr. Paul says that the chief minister wrote to you asking you to investigate.
Maria, it's very strange that the same person who sets fire to the house calls the fire brigade and assists in putting out the fire. I mean, this is a very simplistic formation. Here is he inviting the central agencies and does everything to sabotage a proper investigation. Cases are filed against the ED. The privilege issued to the CBI is withdrawn. Local police support is not given. And now I heard Mr. Paul say, and I was shocked, nobody has raised this yet. He said, look, we are looking into the conspiracy aspect. Now, what is the issue? The issue here is the chief minister is under cloud. Clear that first. We'll get to the conspiracy later. Because first, you have to find out whether what happened is correct. That, even if it's a court-monitored investigation, it has to be done by one of the national agencies. But if you refuse to cooperate, what kind of investigation can be done? So then you will do what you usually do a cleanup operation.
So is this
saying
some
that there
kind
was
of
a
cleanup
conspiracy.
operation that is at play, Mr. Panikar, and you'll get the final words?
No, the thing is, people are asking about Swapna Suresh not bringing enough evidence. Now, she said she saw cash in a bag in a consulate. Okay, in the consulate office, and that something heavy was transported to the CM's residence in the Biryani ports. Now, she doesn't have access to any of these offices right now. So, the liability of bringing out the proof rests on whose shoulders? Let the CMO publish the CCTV footage on the relevant dates that Swapna Suresh, states at least as a beginning, as the first step to prove to the people that the CMO is clean. Now, without doing anything, slapping charges of conspiracy and inciting riots on someone who is leveling allegations against the government is abject misuse of power. It's very clear. So how can you expect, natural justice from a government
and
which
will
is
we know
facing
the truth
allegations
ever?
which is under the
That
hammer?
is the big question. And perhaps when we get some details of this 164 statement that has been recorded by Sapna, we'll know about the role each and every alleged player in this scam has played. Will the truth ever come out? That is the big question that we'll have to wait and see how it unravels in the coming few days. Thank you so much for joining us, Tom Vadakar, Sabrinathan, Srijit, Panikar, Sebastian, and Kaliswaram Garaj. Shifting focus to another story now. And it seems there is no end to the tussle between netas and social media personalities, where YouTubers, stand-up comedians and artists are once again at loggerheads with the neta class. So the Kolkata police on Tuesday arrested YouTuber Rodo Roy in Goa for making alleged derogatory remarks against West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. Roy reportedly made remarks against Chief Minister during a Facebook live session. The prosecution sought 14-day police custody for the YouTuber. He has been sent to police custody till 14th of June. Earlier, Roy had mocked the Paschim Bangla Academy's decision to confer the West Bengal Chief Minister with a special literary award. This comes in the backdrop of arrests of comedians like Munawar Farooqi, where time and again the freedom of expression is debated. This case also comes amidst the tussle over the sedition law, where the legal track record shows that the colonial weapon has been used as a political tool to silence dissent and target political opponents. The case has once again thrown up the debate about where the Lakshman Rekha lies between the freedom of expression and crackdown on derogatory remarks. Let me take that discussion forward with Dr. Shantanu Sen, TMC MP, Bharati Ghosh, BJP spokesperson. We have Deepak Saini, who's a comedian, Kapil Sankla, advocate of the Supreme Court, and Dilip Cherian, founder and consulting partner, Perfect Relations. Dr. Shantanu Sen, on one hand, your party projects itself as the biggest custodian of free speech, but what's happening in Bengal is completely contrary, isn't it? Shantanu Sen, if you've heard me, sir.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, with all humility, let me remind you once again that Article 19 of Indian Constitution speaks about freedom of speech. But there is a clear-cut difference between criticism and using filthy, abusive, unparliamentary language. This person named Raddur Rai, whose actual name is Anirban Rai, he happens to be a serial offender. And I am sure my colleague BJP spokesperson who once upon a time used to address our Mamata Banerjee as her mother also, she will also appreciate that under IPC 354, which speaks about outraging the modesty of any woman, the way Roddur Rai was posturing in that particular video, the way he was using abusive, filthy, unparliamentary language against a lady, and that too against a chief minister. And once again I repeat, he happens to be a serial offender.
Okay.
It's me who lodged a complaint
Yes,
against
I'm aware
Roddur
of
Rai
that.
on 3rd of June,
Yes.
and I spoke to Commissioner of Police.
Yes.
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 So definitely Roddur Rai happens to be a serial offender. It's not that we are going to curb the freedom of speech, but freedom of speech doesn't mean that anyone is allowed to make any derogatory remark openly in the social media. I am sure if you go through the video, even you will not dare to open that video in front of your family.
Okay,
If there
so
is a
basically,
such video posted,
basically,
you
Shantanu
cannot
Sen,
say-
that because freedom of speech is not absolute is very clear. So there are limitations and questions will be raised about it. But can we now fairly say that just about every political party has its own definition of freedom of speech, what they feel is liberal and what they feel is derogatory? Because when you make the allegation against the BJP that they are intolerant, then the similar charge will be leveled against you, against the NCP, what is happening in the state of Maharashtra because of the comment against Sharad Pawar. It will be said in the same context that what is freedom of speech according to you, if it is not palatable, then it is also it should be applied on the other side as well. So you have no moral right now onwards to criticize your political opponent as to them not upholding freedom of speech.
I will just take your 2 minutes time. Number one, first of all, let me remind you, we have seen several instances where Facebook accounts, Twitter accounts of many persons have been locked because of this type of, not even this type, because of making derogatory comments in the post, number one. Number two, had it been a political criticism, let me remind you, our learned Prime Minister used to ridicule Mamata Banerjee during election campaign by saying, Didi, oh Didi. Our then BJP state president used to ridicule Mamata Banerjee when she had a leg injury by saying Mamata Di should wear Bermuda. But that was a little bit ridiculing remarks. But this type of remarks what have been made by Roddur Rai is absolutely against the essence of the society.
Okay.
This is completely a different agenda, and this cannot be and this should not be allowed.
Okay, I agree it should not be allowed, but then same moral principle should be applied in other cases as well, because this outrage on free speech cannot be selective, and this understanding of free speech and liberal values cannot be selective either. Kapil Sankla, what kind of speech should be morally out of bounds? Because this is raising a lot of questions. And what sorts of speakers should be excluded from major platforms? When can giving a platform to one kind of person actually make it harder for other people to speak their minds freely? And what is now freedom of speech?
A very good question. First of all, it bothers me when politicians become the thekedar of the society. Because who are we to judge what is crass and what is not crass? My moral compass could be tuned differently from yours. And that is why I think in every media house, every time something happens against any of these, let me call them jesters or jokers, stand-up comedians, whatever, any action is taken, the first thing that I think of is don't shoot the messenger. I mean, you might not like the message, change the channel. I mean, that's what I say for every news channel as well. You might not agree with the way a rhetoric is or how something is being delivered. You might not be comfortable. Now, the gentleman says that this is something that I can assure you might not watch in front of your family, but there could be something else that could be equally disturbing. So, who are you to judge? And as I said, when you start shooting the messenger, you actually miss out the point. The purpose as a jester is to make something so exaggerated, funny in his own sense, that it kind of makes sense. It's like the language of the street. Now, as far as freedom of speech is concerned, section 19(1)(a), it is not an absolute right, that is true.
Yes.
But how you're using the law is what bothers me. I mean, you're saying that something like this is with an intention to riot. I don't understand how the jester could have made some comments with an intention to riot. I mean, that what you're saying is, because you said something against Didi, these people may riot and therefore the person has committed an offense. That does not make sense by any stretch of imagination. That actually gives me to some other jester to come and make fun of what is happening against this Roy fellow. The second thing you say is 417 cheating. Now, I really don't understand how cheating is made out in this particular case. You know, what bothers me is when the state starts misusing its own machinery. You're actually saying 501 printing or engraving matter known to be defamatory, 504 intentional insult to provoke breach of peace. How does that come? We really don't know. By no stretch of imagination can I think an FIR should have been registered under these sections. Then you're saying 505 public mischief?
Yes.
509 insult.
Yes, Kapil Sankla, I'm just trying to look at the speech, the debate, the nature of this debate and the boundaries of this debate. The libertarian, you know, for the longest time, since 2014, we have been hearing number of political opponents of the current government say that they are most intolerant, that they have, you know, set these boundaries. But I'm seeing the same aspects being, you know, same things being followed by other state governments as well. So what is freedom of speech? Why did it become so unpalatable in Maharashtra? And why did it become so unacceptable again in West Bengal?
Very simple. I don't think that there is as much confusion as we seem to be having. To start with, there is a
hierarchy of state power. It is actually
the task of the center to set an example of allowing and endorsing free speech. Alongside, I think it also needs to set standards on what is decorum on public platforms. It needs to understand the difference between abuse and
analysis, between jibes and jokes,
yes,
between what can be called blasphemy and just mere bluff. So I think that there is a hierarchy of violation of societal norms. Of course, you can go by the constitution, and I think the lawyers should argue that in court. But what are we discussing here? We are discussing what is the way that this ought to work. That there ought to be the government, then there ought to be major national parties, then there ought to be state governments, then ought to be regional parties, all of that. Because we can't expect state governments and regional parties to measure up to what the national government is doing, because standards are different and expectations are different. Similarly, violating the kind of thing that we've been screaming about for a few days on the ad which seemed to provoke rape is the kind of thing which is absolutely societally unacceptable.
Yes, that's different. That's different from how the state is viewing free speech. And Bharati Ghosh, I would also tend to look at what Shantanu Sen is saying little differently. Even in classical treatment of free speech, the state isn't always the villain. Look at the kind of misuse of speech that was there in this case. Free speech certainly is a tricky business, and if there is no decorum, if somebody like Roy and his comments are outright derogatory according to them, then who defines free speech here? The one who is listening or the one who is delivering?
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I didn't catch what Shantanu Sen said because I came in late. But I understand your question. I'm not here to defend any vulgarity or slangs or abuses. But I would like to ask what is biting the TMC government now? Because definitely it got bitten because it had to rush the political dadas in uniform to Goa to catch Ruddu Roy. But isn't this the culture of TMC? Because when Taposh Pal, ex-MP, said that ghore chhele dhukiye diye rape kore debo, means that we'll send our boys inside your home to rape your girls, the same person was given guard of honor after he passed away. And I remember what ex-MP of TMC, Arjun Singh, his choice of words against Shomik Bhattacharya, Mamta Banerjee's Nadda Chadda Gadda, Hamba Hamba Humba Humba. You see, the same standards should apply for all. And when you say that Roddur had violated, the classic standard of decency, then I think that a state, particularly a state which is, like a state like Bengal, where we have Rabindranath Tagore, his nice words, the Bengali culture, which is known all over the world as a very sweet, nice culture, then the definition of standards of decency should apply equally to all. And of course, what I heard...
Shantanu Sen will respond to this, and I'll ask the producer to make it a safe face-off between just the two of them.
In the last few moments, the abuse of authority and power, which started a long time back under the TMC. You remember Ombikesh Mohapatra, the Jadavpur University professor who was jailed for,
it's a long list. It's a long list.
Now,
it's a long list where the TMC has much to explain, just as the BJP has much to explain. And I would say it's the same thing about the Congress and every political party. There has been abuse of this free speech, and also the manner in which these parties have responded in almost punishing those people again. I mean, if they found the so-called free speech as derogatory. Shantanu Sen.
See, first of all, as Bharati Madam has said that he has missed my first portion of speech, so I just want to repeat. I just said Madam Bharati Ghosh used to address this Mamta Banerjee Chief Minister as her own mother. And with all humility, I asked whether Madam Bharati Ghosh... No, it's not a personal comment, it's history. You cannot deny history. Cannot deny history. And he was citing some example.
Did I deny?
No, he was... No.
Did I deny it? Do you have any
No, you
proof
didn't.
except the newspaper reports? Don't go by the newspaper reports. Take out the video.
Okay, let's forget about what she said. Let's forget about what she said. The topic of the discussion is free speech. Okay, let's come to...
I think Anchor has asked me to explain.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I think Anchor has asked me to explain.
Yes, Rudu Roy, let's get
Madam
his
Bharati
context.
Ghosh
Let's put him in context, please. Shantanu Sen?
No, I will get. I will bring him in the context. But as I have got some question, I need to reply. He was citing an example of Tapas Pal. This is for your information. Tapas Pal was censored, but I can cite you several examples which I cannot finish within this stipulated span of time. His leader Tathagata Rai.
Censor is not an FIR.
His leader Tathagata Rai. He used to consider Bengali girls as Bombay butt dancers and so many. I just don't want to spoil this small time. I don't want to spoil this small span of time. Now, don't talk about communal right in your regime. So the incidence rate of communal right increased at least 100 folds. During your regime, criminal activities against women has increased 100 folds. During BJP regime, crime against women has increased 100 folds.
Have completely moved away from the topic of discussion. Let me bring in Deepak Saini now. Deepak Saini, as a comedian, how do you draw that Lakshman Rekha? What exactly is a Lakshman Rekha for you?
देखिए, सबसे पहले तो मैं हिंदी में बोलूंगा।
जी, बोलिए।
बहुत कमजोर है। इंग्लिश में कुछ ऐसा वैसा निकल गया तो फिर वो फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच के दायरे में आ जाएगा। देखिए, बोलने में बहुत सारी लक्ष्मण रेखाएं तो होती हैं, इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं, लेकिन हमें लक्ष्मण रेखा का ध्यान भी रखना चाहिए। लेकिन जहां तक सरकार को क्रिटिक करने का सवाल है, तो मुझे लगता है कि आलोचना सरकार की होनी चाहिए। कोई भी गवर्नमेंट हो, केंद्र सरकार हो, राज्य सरकार हो, आलोचना तो होनी ही चाहिए। और मैं तो एक कॉमेडियन हूँ और मैं सारे नेताओं की मिमिक्री करता हूँ। मैं तो बहुत आलोचना करता हूँ। मैं दिल्ली में रहता हूँ, दिल्ली सरकार की, केंद्र सरकार की करनी चाहिए। तो इसमें तो कोई मुझे कुछ गलत नहीं लगता है कि सरकार की आलोचना। नेता लोग खुद क्या क्या नहीं बोलते हैं, हमें शर्म आ जाए ऐसे ऐसे बयान नेता लोग देते हैं। जैसे कि बताया अभी बहन जी ने, चड्डा गड्ढा गड्ढा ये सब भी बोला जाता है पॉलिटिक्स में। तो हम अगर थोड़ा बहुत बोल देते हैं, थोड़ा हंसी मजाक कर लेते हैं या किसी बात की आलोचना कर देते हैं दुखी होकर, तो उसमें क्या गलत है?
लेकिन दीपक, आलोचना, आपने वर्ड यूज किया आलोचना, आलोचना क्या वो पर्सनल अटैक में भी कन्वर्ट होता है? जैसे रुद्र रॉय के केस में वही बोला जा रहा है, लेकिन ये कौन डिसाइड करेगा कि जो आपकी आलोचना है वो एक्सेप्टेबल आलोचना है? आप क्रिटिसाइज करिए, क्रिटिसिज्म इज ऑल वेलकम, बट वो पर्सनल अटैक में कब कन्वर्ट होता है?
पर्सनल तो देखिए होता ही है। मैंने कहा ना, हमको 1% भी हम लोग नहीं करते हैं जितना खुद ये लोग नेता लोग करते हैं। जैसे कि अब केके की डेथ के बाद वो ऑफेंड हुआ, तो जाहिर सी बात है वो उसका गुस्सा कहाँ निकलेगा? अगर कोई फैन है केके का तो वो प्रशासन को ही कोसेगा, सरकार को ही कोसेगा। तो उसके बाद अगर सरकार की तरफ से कोई रिप्लाई आता है, जैसे एकदम से एफआईआर कर दिया, कुछ कर दिया, तो फिर वो बढ़ता चला जाता है। वो जो फिर वो पर्सनल अटैक है, वो सरकार की तरफ से भी होता है और जनता की तरफ से भी होता है। वो उसको किसी एक स्थान पर रोक देना चाहिए, मुझे लगता है। नेताओं, खासकर उसमें नेताओं को बड़ा दिल दिखाना चाहिए, क्योंकि नेता राजनेता होता है, वो पूरे राज्य का मालिक होता है, उसके पास पूरी पावर होती है, सब कुछ होता है। एक किस्म से अभिभावक पेरेंट होता है वो स्टेट का, तो उसे बड़ा दिल दिखाकर छोटी मोटी चीजों को अवॉइड कर देना।
तो आप रुद्र रॉय के केस को किस तरह से देखते हैं? आपको लगता है ममता बनर्जी को बड़ा दिल दिखाना चाहिए या नेसेसरी है जेलिंग?
हाँ, दिखाना चाहिए, ममता बनर्जी जी को दिखाना चाहिए, लेकिन जितनी पॉलिटिक्स मैं जानता हूँ, ममता बनर्जी जी कभी भी बड़ा दिल नहीं दिखा सकती हैं। जो मैं फिर बोलूंगा तो आप बोलेंगे कि मैंने पर्सनल अटैक कर दिया। मतलब अपने जीतने के लिए इमोशनल ड्रामा तक उन्होंने व्हील चेयर वाला कर दिया, तो वो कहाँ बड़ा दिल दिखा? मुझे नहीं लगता ममता जी को बड़ा दिल दिखा। जितने नेता हमारे देश में, ममता जी तो कभी भी नहीं दिखा सकते।
आखिरी सवाल, आप कॉमेडियन हैं, मुझे ये जानना है कि क्या कॉमेडियंस या यूट्यूबर्स कोई लक्ष्मण रेखा को सोच करके लिखते हैं, या उनको लगता है कि फ्री स्पीच है तो आलोचना के कैटेगरी में आएगा तो हम कुछ भी बोल सकते हैं?
देखिए, जो अब कॉमेडियंस भी दो प्रकार के हैं। मैंने आपको बताया, तो होता है मेन स्ट्रीम कॉमेडियन, जो आपको जो हजारों लोगों में जो मेन स्ट्रीम ऑडियंस में जा रहे हैं। दूसरे जो यूट्यूबर्स हैं, उनको थोड़ा आजादी ज्यादा मिली हुई है और कुछ भी बोलते हैं, यहाँ तक कि गालियां वालियां भी दे देते हैं यूट्यूबर्स, जो भी गलत है। मैं इसके हमेशा खिलाफ रहा हूँ। यूट्यूब पे जो कॉमेडियंस हैं, जो सिंगर्स हैं, वो सब गालियां वालियां तक दे देते हैं। वहां तक नहीं होना चाहिए। हमें एक अपनी भाषा की मर्यादा रखनी चाहिए, और सामने फिर सरकार आलोचना भी, यानी कि मेरा कहने का मतलब, मैं जब कॉमेडी करता हूँ तो आलोचना भी ऐसी हो कि हमने किसी नेता को जेल किया था, वो नेता खुद देख के हंसे, उसमें उससे देश में अच्छा माहौल बनता है, ना कि कुछ नेगेटिव हो जाए।
आपने एक बहुत अच्छी बात बोला, आपने बोला भाषा की मर्यादा। आई थिंक दैट इज द बिग टेक अवे फ्रॉम दिस डिस्कशन। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर जॉइनिंग अस, दीपक सैनी, कपिल सांकला, दिलीप चेरियन, डॉक्टर सेन एंड भारती घोष. We are slipping into a short break. After that, we'll get a piece of breaking news regarding some other incident that has been associated with another gamer, another minor of PUBG.